Hello, good evening. I wanted to tell you something about the history of our Cochin state, the Cochin Nation. This is because lot of historians and what you say YouTube news are giving different pictures, which is far away from the truth. I think my YouTube talk will help you to know the actual facts about the Cochin Nation. The Cochin was was under the Chera Empire since very long, and by around 12th century there was an attack by the Chola, and after 270 years, the brothers of the sister son of Chera's next ruler, I mean the so-called ruler, he could take back the empire, capture the empire. The youngest ruled the Vettath and the eldest ruled the Cochin. Both were so close. And of course, in 1490s, there was a big attack, the attack from the Arabs, because Zamorin got Arab support and they wanted to control the trade. There was a big vast amount of pepper was exported from Muziris, that is Vettath area, and that was being attacked by the Arabs on the way, that's pirates. And that was being exported by the Jews and Syrian Canaanite Christians who were dominating the exports. The trade inside will be dominated by a lot of people, but the exports were dominated by the Jews and Syrians since many centuries. And during that attack, two Vettath princes were killed. They died to protect the motherland. The Jewish people were massacred. Then, of course, you know that Zamorin had a very good navy under the Marakkars. Marakkars were originally Moors. So, they were very strong in the naval attack. The capital from Chenamangalam of Vettath was shifted to Udayamperu, and Cochin also was a small kingdom. And Cochin brother was in difficulty. Then it was actually, you know that where history says that it is Veera Godavarma of Cochin who invited. Actually, Cochin means it is actually Vettath, they were brothers, no? So it was actually Vettath, Veera Godavarma had invited the Vasco da Gama for protection of the Portuguese, to save them by giving to save the culture, tradition, religion, everything. And it was united. At that time, the Cochin king who ruled was Unni Ramavarma Koil. So the name itself is Ramavarma something. Name itself was entirely different, no? So the king who invited, as per the old history books, it is Veera Godavarma. And the capital which was shifted to Udayamperu was very weak for the Vettath, and Cochin was also weak. These Portuguese came in ships by 1500. They attacked the vessels of Zamorin and Kunjali Marikas and the naval ships. Finally, they were allowed to, I think in 1505, they were allowed to have a strong fort at Cochin called Manuel Fort, because the King Manuel considered the people of this kingdom as brother in arms, that is, as brothers. Of course, we preferred then all the exports through these. Cochin preferred all the exports to go through these Portuguese hands. And they were saved, but everything went well. The king in 1656, I think, 1656, when there were 5 Tavaris in Cochin. There is Muta Tavadi, Ilaya Tavadi, and they were dominant. Muta Tavadi were dark in color, Ilaya Tavadi were fair in color. That's what is written. It is written in the books. Then it's all coming under the Perimadapu Surupam. But its Surupam was different. And then comes the Chalur Tavadi, that is Tichur side. Then Muringur side, there is another Tavadi, but Muringur Tavadi, what you call, merged with the Ilaya Tavadi. Then another Tavadi is here at Pallurithi Tavadi. Pallurithi Tavadi member died, and they supported Ilaya Tavadi to be the next king. So from Ilaya Tavadi, a queen came in 1656. She was Rani Gangadhar Lakshmi. For 2 years she ruled. Then the British told that the next king should be from Muta Tavadi, which they don't prefer, and Chalur Tavadi also they don't prefer. So not British, Portuguese. Because Chalur was close to Samorin, and they had influenced the Muta Tavadi. Because Muta Tavadi and Ilaya Tavadi had some differences. So the Ilaya Tavadi queen, the queen of Cochin, thought that as there are no persons fit to be the king, means by seeing the age and everything, they wanted to adopt from Vettath, who are brothers. So 4 princes from, that is Ramavarma, Keralavarma, Aryavarma, and Godavarma. 4 princes were taken as the princes of Cochin in 1658 from Vettath Tavadi. From Vettath Surupam. And these adopted king, the eldest Ramavarma became the king of Cochin. And that naturally the Vettath land merged with Cochin in 1658. The coronation of the king was conducted at the cathedral, Santa Cruz Cathedral. Coronation was done by the Queen Rani Gangadhar Lakshmi by placing the Portuguese crown. Actually, Cochin never used the crown prior to that. That was because there was some some mishappenings, and they thought that the crown won't be used till they capture back some of the lands already taken by the Zamorin. But in 1663, there was a big fight that 1661, there was a big fight. The Dutch Admiral Van Govens led a naval force and attacked Ceylon. After subduing that, he proceeded to Cochin. And in the naval war at Cochin, from Manuel Fort, Portuguese used to support. The Dutch was defeated, and Dutch was fleeing at the time. Our King Ramavarma's most trusted, the new aide, the Prime Minister, Paliyatachan, pursued the ship, The ship's name was Van Gogens. But inside the ship, there was an understanding with the Dutch stating that the Dutch come back, they'll be allowed, these Paliyat will be given the highest authority above the king. But you will be the you will be made as the ruler of Chennamangalam and the supreme commander of the army, which has to report only to the Dutch group. That is Dutch East India Company. If you see the Dutch East India Company, it is started by Dutch people, but that area was ruled by Swiss. And later on, in Napoleon's period, that was almost controlled by the French. So the Dutch East India Company, the group was stronger, but the soldiers were not sincere to them. You know, the Delanoy, he joined our Martandavarma later on. You know, Delanoy is a great leader of the Dutch army, the supreme commander of the Dutch East India Company army in the naval fight. So let us see. And in the Van Gogh, Martandavarma is in 1757. I mean, let me come 1653. Then what happened? 1661. Because of the understanding, they came back in 1662 and attacked suddenly. And after for 5 days, we were leading in the attack. But on 5th at midnight, our Paliyat and the Prime Minister and some of his supporters joined the opposite side by going at midnight, joining the opposite side. And suddenly, due to sudden attack, Godavarma continued the attack, but the Portuguese people were captured. Aikota was put under flame, and we had to retreat. In the week-long fight, suddenly it reached our Mattancheri fort. In front of the Mattancheri fort, all the three Vettath princes, along with Nayar ministers and Nambudiri ministers, they all died. One Nambudiri minister was taken as a prisoner, and the queen was taken as a prisoner by the soldier called Hendrik. That is the famous person who wrote the book on the trees, value of the medicinal plants, medicinal trees, Hendrik van Reed. And later on, this Hendrik van Reed was promoted as the governor. And he was very smart to avoid the name of the death of the king and the queen being, old queen being arrested. He used 40 persons to write about the medicinal plants, and was published so that people thought it is in his name that Ayurveda book or the medicinal plants book is given. So he is remembered as the writer of that book. By the people, it happens. No? So in 1662 again, the Godavarma continued the fight. In March, around 1 month fight was going on at Arur. Godavarma was encircled, Prince Godavarma was encircled by the Dutch, Paliyat and Muttatavadi group. But suddenly, Godavarma killed the Captain Peter of the Dutch, and they had to escape at midnight. They went to Ceylon. But on the way, it seems that Ramavarma, the Muttatavadi prince who supported them, understood that he is being ditched. And he might have rebelled. He died. Anyway, it is reported that he died on the way to Ceylon at Porakkad, place called Porakkad, nearby Porakkad. But actually, it is not that way that day goes. And even if he had gone, there is proof by the people who says that they had Dutch historians had written he had been there and he was speaking Portuguese language and Malayalam. Portugal language and Malayalam. So he reached there. So the death means he might have been killed probably after once he came to know the facts and he didn't support. So next king was taken. They preferred to take it from Chalur, I think, Chalur Tawari. And they came back again in 1662 December. There was a big fight. In January 8th, I think, the Portuguese alone at Fort Cochin was defeated, but the fight continued. Godavarma continued the fight till his death. For week-long fight, Ernakulam was made to rubbles on a single day because cannons were used continuously the whole night, and the Zamorin's army supported them because they knew that deaths themselves cannot stop the valiant, valorous Cochinites. 5 days, sorry, continuous days fight, every 5 hours changing the army, while the Cochin army could not change. The number is limited, no, they could. Samorin army was more in number, so all deaths beat rebels and Samorin together, they could overpower. And later on, by March, the new king was installed. Next, yeah, March, new king was installed, 1663. And by 1670, 76 or something, they made it public that he will be the Paliyat will be the hereditary prime minister and will be the chief. Actually, they were ruling, so they made it public, and will is the chief of ruler of Chandamangalam also. So prior to that, it was Naikirviti Lachans who were their hereditary prime minister. So now the Paliyat appointed by Vettath king had become the hereditary prime minister, and the king became a puppet. So in 1690s, the next king should be, there was no right person to be the next king. Ilayathavadi preferred the next king to be from the Vettath, because Chandamangalam, that Vettath family already, now the kingdom is merged, no? Family is there at Chandamangalam. You know Villar Vettath Kotail Kovilagam, that is at Chandamangalam. Tanur is the branch, is the place where these people ruled, even at Tanur, but the palace was at Chandamangalam, once at Udayamperur. But the Dutch rulers opposed. So the Kongani, there was a rich merchant. With his support, a lot of money he spent. In sudden attack, they could capture the Godurthu fort. Our people captured Godurthu fort. And for Chandamangalam, a big meeting was conducted that Vettath faction alone should be taken as the next king. So the retired governor, that Hendrik van Reed, was spending time somewhere in Africa, enjoying retired life. He was called back as the Commissioner General of the Dutch Army, Dutch East India Company, that is above the governor post, temporary post. He was posted in Cochin, and he took the support of the Samorin. Samorin was afraid because it is a big fight. It can become a big fight. Because all the people of Cochin were supporting the Vettath faction. That is not Chadur group. All Madambis. All Madambis means they are mostly Nayars, and one was a Christian. And all were supporting, and all communities were supporting. So Chetua was offered to Zamorin, and at a place called Alangad. Alangad means, it is present Alangad is a small one. That Alangad means is a bigger territory. Alangad, all the Nayars, everybody supported our Vettath faction to be the next king. Against the Dutch, it was a rebellion because Dutch was taking too much tax also. And they were putting the people under too much high pressure. All rebelled together. Jews, Christians, Muslims, all the people here. what you call Nayars, Nambudris. And there was a big fight in 1691 as Chetua was given to Zamorin. All the combined force could defeat this rebellion group. And these Nayars all escaped to nearby areas of Travancore and all. Travancore was supporting us. And some Nayars, some of us Christians escaped to Kottayam. And people to Alapi side, after Alapi, Cherthala side. Many people went there and settled to different place, while Villar Vettath Christian group settled at Ambalur near Udayamperu. And Hindu group, I don't know, I heard that they had attacked the Samorin, controlled that Muringur area now, because Muringur faction already merged with Ilayadavadi, and Samorin controlled the Muringur area. And the Muringur area, there was a temple, and Temple Nauka was attacked by the Hindu group, Christian group. And that is Temple Nauka means dominance in the temple of the temple. That they won't allow, no, that's a big thing. Naturally, attack means attacked and won. So naturally they will retaliate. In the retaliation, these people settling at Chandamangalam and the powerful group now is becoming that Paliyat. Anyway, that history of Vettath Hindu group is over. Only the temple remains. Vettath, Villar Vettath, Kottail Kovilagam. Even that boards are being destroyed. As if Vettath was remains a question mark, except in the PSC questions books. So anyway, the people were very happy that period. Then after that comes the Dutch rule, which was a bit hard for the people. So in 1757, the Travancore army, which had already defeated Dutch in the Battle of Colachal, and Delanoy supporting them, attacked the Cochin. And then the place called Kandanad, Ottudirpu, that is where the treaty was found, was made. It is written that Ambalapura and that side, and maybe Porkad also, everything was captured by the Travancore army. At Arukuti, there was a big fight. But what I heard is that through my close historians, that the attack went from Udayamperu through Udayamperu. Udayamperu church was attacked. Even Kandanad church was attacked, and both were repaired by Marthandavarma later on, freely repaired. And after the Dalawa who led the attack, and Balaramarma led the attack from the other side, from Udayamperu side, and Kandanad side entered directly by the Dalawa side, and both joined together. When they reached Kandanad, the Tripunithra palace was a bit afraid because it is nearing the area, no? So there was a compromise. Anyway, that is finally what happened. The Travancore attack, we people lost. Cochin lost the supremacy. We were giving some territories. We gave some territory nearby Alva, Alangad and all. And some tributes were given. I mean, every year, tithas were given to the Travancore king. That is in 1657. But in 1776, what happened? Hyder Ali understood the Travancore king is very rich and suddenly attacked. And Hyder Ali could subdue us, subdue Cochin. He couldn't reach Travancore. Travancore was quite strong. So the supremacy, he started taking 1/4 of the amount which we get from the treasure, which we earn, should be given to Hyder Ali. That was the compromise. So Dutch enjoyed posting the people as the prime minister and the kings, and they preferred Mutadawadi and Chadurtawadi alone. Usually they preferred Chadurtawadi and sometimes Mutadawadi, and it was going on. Then Tipu Sultan, he was more fanatical and wanted to capture Travancore. He led an attack in 1790 and he attacked even Cochin also and came to Travancore. Parur and all he had attacked well. And when he reached Travancore, suddenly the British, there was a pact with Travancore already, I think maybe in 1785, with Travancore and British. So British sent some army to that Pallipuram fort. He understood they will be encircled because they were around. The Travancore army was also strong. Cochin army may turn to any side any moment because they had more relationship with Travancore. So he retreated, and Tipu Sultan was attacked in 1790 by British at Karnataka with the support of Marathas and all. He had to retreat. So Travancore, to save Travancore only, the British had attacked from that side too. So they couldn't bring more force. They will be encircled here. He retreated. So Alwa side, we people were strong after Alwa. And from behind, British was coming. So they had no other way out. They went back. So in 1791, our Cochin king made a treaty with the British and British East India Company. And they started taking tithas, big amount from us, and we got subdued under their protection. We need protection, and they gave protection. But Dutch were enjoying still because they were deciding our king, our prime minister, and they were very powerful at Fort Cochin. So in 1795, suddenly the British attacked. So, but when British attacked, the Dutch could not withstand. First, they attacked the Dutch weapons. Their weapons were they kept it in the church, and all that is Santa Cruz Church, where the Godavarma king and the Ramavarma king were enthroned as the kings of Cochin. That area, that in 1795 it all burst. The church building went in pieces. Far off it had fallen even into the sea nearby. Manuel Fort, which should they attack? Because it was a flat fort when the Portuguese had built it. Dutch had made it more better. It withstood the attack, was not completely destroyed, and British occupied that fort, started ruling, and they made that bastion as that is the corner of the fort, as the office of the resident of the British. While the home they used, Colonel Macaulay used the home at Bolgati, nearby Dutch Palace. But in 1809, our Palyathachen, see, you should understand, our Saktan Thambaran used to pay, in 1790, he had given tiths to our Tipu Sultan. But in 1791, he had taken a strong step in supporting British to made a secret pact because Travancore and himself was having a good understanding. So in 1795, when British defeated in the 5-year-old war, the Carnatic War, they came back. Actually, they could occupy the land. One more thing, if I say, 1499, when the Portuguese came, there was the pepper war already started. First pepper war, second pepper war. So that all started. Already it was going on. First pepper war was going on. Then only these people entered. That war was between our Vettath group and Vettath, our Cochin, against the Samorins, supported by the Samorin with the Arabs, along with the Arabs attacked. That was, these people entered the war only. Okay, like this. Anyway, here what happened here, we had found a very good attack by the Veluthambi Dalava in 1809. In 1809, Veluthambi Dalava and our Palyatachan allied together, and 600 people from Palyatachan, and totally 800, maybe 200 from Travancore, encircled our Bolgati palace, attacked, and he escaped to the bastion, that is Fort Cochin office. Our Colonel Makkale, he was the resident of Cochin. He escaped to Thomas Makkale, I think. He escaped to our Fort Cochin. In Fort Cochin, it was not easy to enter. So people get confused where it has attack had gone. Attack, it was conducted here. Some historians say that it had been conducted. Attack had occurred at Fort Cochin. Some say it's at Bolgati. Actually, it is at Bolgati where Palyath was stronger. And together they attacked Ramgur, and they escaped to that area. That's why he could escape well. Otherwise, from Fort Cochin side, if he had escaped, means he could not have reached anywhere. And there are some historians writing that the Chinese had once ruled us. Never, they had never ruled us. Some historians say that we are all ruled by our Andhra dynasty. No, never. It is, anyway, this is only these Europeans came and everything under their control now, Dutch, and now under the British. And after this attack, they understood the Palyath should be removed and the Chadur Tawari should be removed, because they are already the Dutch people and these Dutch supporters. And these people, Elay Tawari king was made as Ramavarma 12 instead of Ramavarma 11. He was displaced by the British, and Ramavarma 12 was coronated in 1909 or 1910. Like this, our Palyath Achan was arrested and the hereditary prime ministership was stopped, Diwan was stopped. He died in it. He later on died. One says that he died at Varanasi. Some says that in the British prison at Madras. Anyway, he passed away. But Palyath was stronger because Ilay Tawari, Mootha Tawari, and all were relatives, were same. And Palyath used to have some blood relationship called Sambandham with these kings, royal family. And Macaulay made a rule in 1830s to give education to the people. And that English education slowly came up. Maharaja's College also, we know that a Englishman was the principal in 19th century. One of my relative forefather, he was the first Malayalam professor. Malayalam Munshi, that is called. He is Martin Maple. So it was about casteism. What I mean is that the casteism was because Gurujis are given importance. Even if king, royal family member or Nambudiri is study, Gurujis will be given importance, casteism first. And 1912, maybe the new king had taken members to govern the country. I mean, all nominees. In 1925 again it increased. So by 1925 Walmsley won. Prior to that, another foreigner was there as a Planters Constituency MLC, and he gave the place to Walmsley again the last 2 years for Walmsley to continue. H.J. Walmsley. Then Shanmugam Chetty was the Diwan. First time Walmsley, the first an Indian was defeated in India in the elections in British India. In Indian Empire, it's called Indian Empire. Under the British rule. It is Vettath Mathai MLC defeated H.J. Walmsley in 1938 by a single vote. Practically 100 acres of land were needed to stand in the election. Sorry, to vote the election at that time. Later on only it was changed as in 1945 it had changed to a lesser area. So till 1944 he continued. But during the World War, first most of our people said quit India in 1942. But seeing the situation that Japanese were more harsh, and we won't be getting freedom, we'll be under the Japanese again, which is more tough. People started revolting, started supporting British, revolting against the group which said that we need not support British. So especially the Cochin wanted to support. Cochin state, Cochin Nation supported vehemently. Lakhs of people went from here as the labor force, Assam labor force, which went up to Burma and even to Kohima, which supplied food, ammunition, and cleared the jungle before the attack. And even during the attack. And that gave victory to the British Army. And in 1947, on August 15th, Cochin was a separate nation. But then for next day, we merged with Indian Union. Thus goes the history. Thank you very much. Bye. Good night.